It is 6:30, so we are going to get started. First order is the approval of the agenda.
Make a motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
Thank you.
Now we gotta vote on
Correct. All in favor
Aye.
it. Aye.
and opposed? Motion carries. Second, or technically the third on our agenda is the approval of the minutes from November 20th. So it's been a while since we've had a meeting.
Make a motion to approve the minutes.
I will second. So there's been a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
And those opposed? And motion carries. And number 4 on the agenda is selection of the chair and vice chair and introduction of new commissioner.
Let's do the intro first, if that's okay. So we have a new commissioner joining, so Scott Furman. This is his first night here. It's a big night. It's a big agenda. Scott, do you mind just sharing, introducing yourself, where you live, something fun about yourself?
Sure. Yeah, I'm Scott Furman. I live on a Ramsey Circle up on the Bluffs. I've been a Carver resident for 27 years now, and raised 2 kids here, and one of them wants to move back. So really happy to be on the council. So thank you,
Great.
or the commission, excuse me.
Welcome. I won't make you all go down because I think you've all introduced yourself to him already. So we'll move into selection of chair and vice chair. This happens every March, so it's not anything specific to this meeting. It's just the first one we've had since March. So the chair runs the meeting, vice chair would step in should the chair ever not be present. This is typically uncomfortable because you have to volunteer a friend and they have to be okay with it.
Okay, I'll make a nomination for Krista to be our chair, continue in the chair spot.
Second that.
I feel like this is an auction. All in favor? Any discussion?
Aye.
Okay, all in favor, I guess.
Aye.
Those opposed? So motion carries. And a motion for vice chair. So I'll do Sherry, same as before. All in favor?
I'll second.
Oh, sorry, yeah, we need that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, those opposed? So motion carries.
And you're both okay assuming those roles?
No changes.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
Next, we will have a public hearing. Erin, do you want to present?
Yes, so this application has a couple pieces to it, so I'm going to break it down into 2 specific pieces. The first being the comprehensive plan amendment, and then we'll move into the platting, the preliminary plat and the rezoning for the enclave at Carver Creek. So for some location details for folks that are watching at home or in the room, we are west of our current development in the city limits. The property was recently annexed into the city of Carver. On the north side of the neighborhood is the Preserve, which is the Brandel Anderson product. South is Timber Creek, the Lennar product. And then west is obviously the township and our growth area. On the bottom of the screen is the city's, one of the city's land use maps that's in the comprehensive plan with the 3 parcels circled that are contemplated for development tonight. So it is 3 parcels. I labeled them in the packet via their PID. So there's 3 parcels, 2 formerly the Lenzins, 1 the Hammers. So if you think about them in the 3, it's just the 2 together, and then the 3rd is the Hammers piece adjacent to 212. Some fast facts about the Enclave. The project is proposed by D.R. Horton. They previously have developed Meridian Fields and Hawthorne Ridge in town. The project site is 255 acres. Like I mentioned before, it was previously annexed into Carver city limits, which is a city council motion. Township reviews, the state reviews before annexation is complete. That process has been completed, which allows us to move forward with other planning applications now that the city holds land use control since it has been annexed into the city. The proposal is for 508 housing units, 403 detached single-family and 105 townhome units. The homes range from 1,500 square feet to 3,100 square feet. And something that you'll notice throughout this plan and this project is that there's an extensive trail and sidewalk system. So it clocks nearly 6 miles of public trail and sidewalk throughout the project. Something else that's really impressive about this site is that of 55.4 acres of tree cover, only 3.8 will be removed during construction. So like the project we'll see later tonight, They struggle to hit the tree replacement that they needed to get to, but in this site, there is a big focus on tree preservation via a big ravine system that's on site, and then publicly held in city outlot. There's a large community scale park planned, and the project has been through concept plan, the environmental review, the EAW, the environmental assessment worksheet, and annexation. So starting first with that comprehensive plan amendment, I'll talk you through it. You can ask questions, we'll move into that public hearing. So what is a comprehensive plan? What are we looking at tonight? So a comp plan is required by the Met Council for all local government units in the 7-county metro area. So it's cities, townships, counties alike that need to have a comprehensive plan. It's updated every 10 years. So our current plan was adopted in 2018 and it forecasts out to 2040. We are starting our plan in 2026 to be adopted in 2028 and we'll be forecasting out until 2050. So a big section that the Planning Commission thinks about is the land use plan, and that section of the code, it calls for what type of development we anticipate. So it calls for things like low-density residential or commercial. It doesn't call for things like a grocery store or a Target or a gas station. It's just types of uses that are put on the land use map. The land use map also sets residential densities. So the Met Council requires that a certain number of acres in each city is designated for different density levels. So there's low density, medium density, and high density. You have to hit a certain percentage for your plan to be accepted by the Met Council. So those densities correspond with the land use map and the residential districts that are included there. Something else that's interesting and sometimes challenging to understand is there's an agricultural preserve credit. So it's a program through the state administered through the county that reduces property taxes for eligible farmers in areas of urban expansion. The program in itself works really well for farmers that are adjacent to city limits, but it's challenging related to our land use map because we have to designate those properties as ag, even though there would never be a development scenario where the city annexes property in for an agricultural use. When you are annexed into the city, there's a requirement that you connect to city services, so city sewer and city water, and then you have to start hitting those density requirements. So if a farm field of 40 acres comes in with one residential unit, you're not hitting the residential densities that is required by the Met Council. Although that all seems to make sense, we have to show property as ag if they are using that program. So on the screen, our comprehensive plan is probably unique because we have two maps in it. One that shows the ag preserve, so that's on the left, and the taupey brown color is that ag preserve program. That's the overlay. So if you looked at the legend on this map, it would be shown as agriculture in that area, which I think can be a little bit deceiving if someone is trying to learn more about Carver and where development is headed to see an agricultural designation on our land use map when we anticipate development to happen and when all of our other planning documents contemplate development to continue west into our future growth area. So the taupe brown on the left is that agricultural designation. And then the Hammers piece, which is kind of the Z shape up by 212, is the third property that's contemplated. The second map on the right is our secondary land use map that we use more conversationally with developers if they come in to talk about what we think is actually going to happen on those properties, knowing that there's property west of that ag preserve program that we anticipate to come into the city. Utilities will extend through that space. So a gripe I've had with the Met Council for a long time. I've shared that information with them to no avail. But you can see the two different maps, one with ag preserve, one without. So the land use map that we use more typically is the right version. So the comprehensive plan request by D.R. Horton tonight is to re-guide the two properties, the two formerly Lenzen properties, from ag to low density residential. So it's making it consistent with that land use map that we use conversationally. So it's going from that brown taupey color to light yellow, low density residential. And then the Hammers piece, the request is to re-guide from high density to medium density. The densities on the screen are shown. So low density, the two pieces in the lighter yellow are 3 to 5 units per acre. The Hammers piece will need to hit 5 to 12 units per acre. So if processed the way that our comp plan says that it should, those first two pieces should be ag and then high density, hitting 12 to 36 acres, which would be challenging without it being a multi-story apartment building, most likely. So DR is proposing townhomes on that site. So this process alone is just re-guiding those three parcels. So it will go from ag, high density, to low density, medium density. So like I mentioned previously, the Met Council does require a certain percentage of each land use to be designated. So With the development of Carver Place and Carver Oaks, the two projects by the CDA, the two apartment buildings that happened in 2024 and 2025, we're able to hit the high density requirement. So we don't need to re-guide other property for high density, taking this property specifically from high density to medium density. So our calculation stays okay at the Met Council for each residential land use bucket having the correct percentage. So the process for a comp plan amendment is long. The Met Council sets your affected jurisdiction list, so that's on the right. So those are the folks that get to review all of the information about the comp plan amendment. We're required to reach out to them 60 days in advance of this meeting, so they have 60 days to look at the information, provide feedback, ask questions, figure out anything that they need. We had some comments that were received from Carver County that were included in the packet, but I wouldn't say those are actionable items. They mostly were planning requests that we follow through our typical process. The City Council is slated to review the same application at their May 4th meeting, and then the Met Council will get the application for 30 days. So they will have 30 days to look at it, make sure it's consistent with our plan across the board, and then they'll issue a decision as well. A public hearing is required for a comprehensive plan amendment, and we are looking for a recommendation to the City Council tonight. And again, it's for the two properties to go from the agricultural designation from that ag preserve program to low density residential, and then that third piece to go from high density to medium density. So I'm going to pause there, open it up for discussion, and then we can have that public hearing.
Do we have anybody from D.R. Horton here, or no?
We do.
We do. I thought you looked familiar. It's been a while, though. Okay. So Erin, I just have one question in your write-up. I don't know if I'm reading into it, but of course I can't find it. But you had written, that the requirements generally meet. You used the word generally, so can you like articulate the general part?
Yeah.
Like, what are we missing out on that we're missing?
I wouldn't say there's anything like the densities that are proposed in the preliminary plat. They do hit the low density and the medium density residential. So generally they hit those densities. I am just, in a preliminary plat write-up, I typically don't say anything super definite because it's not, yes, it hasn't been approved by the city council at that point.
Okay. So I recall the review that we did back in September, pulled my old notes out because it had been a while. And the only comment that I had was related to the parkland that was at the very south tip of the
Can
property.
we pause on that? Can we
Yes.
just do the comp plan amendment part right now?
I'm sorry, yes.
Thank you.
Jumping ahead. I don't have any other questions.
Thanks.
I just need some clarity on the ag preserve and how that's gonna play with rezoning of this. So my understanding right now, the plots are annexed by the city, but are still ag preserve or not?
No, so when a property comes into city limits, the ag preserve program falls off. It's not a
Okay.
program you can have in
So it's
city limits.
no longer enrolled in ag preserve? Okay.
Correct.
Jim, any questions?
No.
Have we done one of these comp plan amendments previously with other
Yes.
developments?
Hawthorne Ridge required one. Meridian Fields did too, so it's D.R. Horton. Those are the two that I've processed in my 8-ish years of being here.
Okay.
Wow, 3 for 3.
So commission, no further questions? Okay. I am going to open the public hearing. So at this time, we will take comments from the public. When you come forward, up here to the microphone, please begin by stating your name, address for the record. Once all public comments have been received, the public hearing will be closed, and no further comments on this item will be accepted during this meeting.
Do you mind if I just give a caveat?
I suppose.
So this public hearing is just for the comp plan amendment. There's going to be a second one after I give a presentation about the project too. So if you have feedback about the comp plan amendment, please share. But if it's more project specific, there will be another chance. And also the sirens are about to go off in like 10 seconds, so don't be alarmed.
A little bit more clarity on what.
Do you want to come up here, please, so we can all hear you?
Well, I'm a school teacher, so I don't think I'll have any trouble here. My name's Jim Walker, 2044 Tamarack. I just need clarification on what I'm allowed to comment on,
Right now, we're discussing the comprehensive plan amendment.
which covers The park,
Changing,
not the park, right?
not the
No.
park, so we're
Right,
changing
changing the zone.
changing the zoning.
Traffic improvements on Monroe,
No.
No,
okay? What does it cover?
just ag to low density and high density and medium density. Yeah. Anyone else want to ask any questions? How long do I have to keep public hearing open?
I think you are,
I
think you're set.
So I need a motion to close the public hearing.
correct.
I'll move to close the public hearing.
Second.
Perfect.
There he goes.
We need a motion to recommend the approval of the comp plan amendment for PIDs, 3 of them,
You can say the 3 PIDs mentioned in the packet.
yes.
Still need to close the hearing.
I did close the hearing, didn't I?
We need to vote on it. We got a motion, we need to vote on it.
We have to vote on closing the public hearing?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. All in favor of closing the public hearing?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. I will make a motion to recommend the approval of the comp plan amendment for the 3 PIDs.
Second.
Scott with it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. So I'm assuming, Erin, you'll do another presentation?
Yes.
Thank you.
Alrighty, let's get into the nitty gritty of the project now. Let's get some more details, have a conversation, bring D.R. Horton up to ask some questions too if you'd like. So the second part of the applications by D.R. Horton are for preliminary plat and rezoning tonight. So the platting applications are pretty typical. We see them fairly often with Carver developing the way that it is right now. So the rezoning request is to go to an R2 planned residential development overlay, so an R2 PRD. What that PRD does is it allows some variations from the zoning code. So for this project specifically, a PRD is required for the housing type mix, so the mix of the townhomes and the single-family homes. And then D.R. Horton is asking for a reduction in the lot size minimum. It's typical with that request that we see a reduction in the side yard setback. That is not the case here. So we've been going down to 5 in several projects, 5 on each side yard, so the houses are 10 feet apart. That's not a request here, so the houses will maintain 15 feet between. And then information on the right is from the preliminary plat, so it shows the setbacks, showing where they meet the typical standards for the city code, and then the variation is for that lot size. So you can see the smallest lot size is in the 45 to 55 foot lot single family at 5,728. That lot size is pretty consistent with some development that we've seen recently. So thinking about the villas along Spring Creek Drive and the meadows at Spring Creek, a couple of the Brookview lots, the Oak Tree Court villas, it's pretty typical with a villa development to have lot sizes at that size. And then you can see the largest lot sizes get up to 17,780. So a big range of product in this project from D.R. Horton, offering several of their different product types throughout. This was the concept plan that you originally saw. So thinking through this project connects into the preserve on Monroe, and then Timber Creek on, is it Balsam Lane? And then Timber Lane on the south side. So 4 connections into existing projects. This was, again, the concept plan that you saw most recently at the Planning Commission level. And the preliminary plat is on the screen now. So you can see there are some consistencies. It looks typically the same, but there are some changes that have occurred working through concept plan to preliminary plat, making sure that the project is consistent with all city details, thinking through our park system, our trail system, what this project will look like when it is fully built and used by residents. D.R. Horton provided this lovely graphic showing the different housing types across the site. So it's the preliminary plat, but just colored. So you can see the townhomes are called out, and then each separate color of the houses is a different housing type. I'll go into those more specifically. Like Commissioner Walsh mentioned, there's an extensive city park on the south side of the project, so we'll talk a little bit about that. And then you can start to see the 6 miles of city sidewalk and city trail that's throughout the project. Here it is broken into 2 pieces, so you get a little bit of a zoomed view. You start to see here some of the landscaping that will be throughout the project, buffering along 212 specifically that we'll talk about, after our review of the EAW, some things we learned about sound, and just the project moving from Monroe on the east side to our westerly border now on the west side of the project. Here's the south portion showing that large city park. And then some things I wanted to highlight that I thought the Planning Commission would be interested in and want to talk more about. We learned via the EAW that there was concerns at the townhomes about sound from Highway 212, and we needed to mitigate that. The amount of sound that was coming off 212 would have been problematic via the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency and their sound standards. So you can see here there's extensive buffering. I have some more information on the next slide too. The large city park has changed a little bit, and then we'll have a big discussion. Something that's notable in the south side is that several of the lots on that southernmost cul-de-sac have been removed. So in hopes of making the park more open, hoping to make it feel less like a hidden secret that's in the Enclave and more of a public park that you can get to. You can see that there is a parking lot that comes off that cul-de-sac, so that cul-de-sac won't get clogged with folks that might be, there's a ton of topography down in that area, so if kids are sledding, you can come and park, so you won't clog that cul-de-sac with people that are just using the park use. And then just wanted to highlight the separate entrances into the project, so from the preserve, Monroe, and then 2 from Timber Creek. This was the most helpful thing, I think, in trying to figure out the sound. So on the bottom, you can see that there's 2 townhouses that are modeled, and then you can see an extensive berm and a fence. So between those 2, the berm and the fence, which are here, this is the top of the fence. These are the lanes of 212. So you can see that extensive berming, the fence, and then the landscaping does a really nice job of mitigating the sound issues that happen with those townhomes via the EAW. Another big piece of sound is that it often is not just what you hear, it's what you see. So you start to associate sound with heavy traffic, but this gives you the full visual barrier for the entire townhome unit. It hits at the roof line. So it wouldn't be anticipated that folks in those townhomes would be able to see 212. Likely could still hear it a tiny bit, but it would be heavily mitigated with that berm, the fence, landscaping, and then the distance from 212 and how low it is in this area. So this cross-section I think was really helpful to start to distinguish what it will look like when built to give that visual barrier. And then highlighting the buffering in that space too with the landscape plan. So we talked about the park a little bit, moving into that thought and idea. The park right now looks pretty unprogrammed. That's done by design. We are going to have a larger discussion with the Planning Commission and City Council about end park uses for that park. I will say having a playground in this area is important based on the amount of development that we've seen on the west side of Jonathan Carver Parkway. We have 2 playgrounds, 2 public playgrounds, one at Carver Elementary and the second at Olson Park. Olson Park is pretty small, and then Carver Elementary obviously can't be used a majority of the year when school is in session. So adding a playground system here is important for the massive amount of kids that live in Oak Tree, the Preserve, Meridian Fields, the Enclave, Timber Creek. So obviously a need on the side of 212. And then D.R. Horton has allowed me to be a little bit creative where that other star is. We did a site walk, and there's this really beautiful nature area. It looks like a finger that kind of goes back into the bluffs. So it's highlighted with that second star. And we're proposing a pollinator area, potentially with seating. My long-term dream is to find a grant for some type of public art. So to get something that would draw people into our trail system, make it a destination spot, so people are inspired to explore this extensive trail system that we're creating through Timber Creek and into the Enclave. So a unique park feature that there's a large community park and then a more passive park too, to hopefully satisfy needs of folks throughout the community in the Enclave. Some product types that are anticipated in the project. My arrows got kind of wonky, but you can see it's a big range from D.R. Horton. I think each one has 3 to 7 different units that folks can select from. So it'll be a wide variety of housing types throughout the product and then different elevations as well. And then again, we are back to the formal planning document, the preliminary plat that you're looking for, and then the rezoning request from Ag, which is the default zoning no matter what, when property comes into the city, to that R2 PRD for the mix of housing type and reduction in lot size. I'm going to invite D.R. Horton up to join the conversation. Kurt, their engineer, is also here, and Erin is here if you have specific engineering questions.
Good evening.
Welcome back.
I'm Deb Ridgway with D.R. Horton.
I'm Mike Sewell with D.R. Horton. Good evening.
Any questions? Scott, we'll start with you. I'm taking turns each way, so.
Maybe it's a little too detailed, sorry. Maybe a little detail, but on the, for the sound berm, the fence, what type of fencing material is that
We
envisioned to be?
We anticipate it'd be just like a PVC privacy fence.
Okay.
So lower, easier to maintain, so you don't have to stain it every year and that.
Okay. Do you think that would be adequate to absorb or reflect the sound, or is the sound mitigation depending on the berm and the fence is more visual?
I think it's more the berm, the fence is more visual.
And
It-
with the fence, you saw the extensive landscape in there, so the fence will be the initial visual, but over time, trees and the landscape will grow up and that will get even taller than the 6 feet, so that will
Okay.
take over and provide even between the fence and the landscape and give us some more sound. And then the berm, but as Deb says, the berm's the majority for the residents. And then the last thing that Erin didn't mention, in the areas where we're within the sound area, we also do different glass ratings within the house.
Okay.
So our normal house construction provides enough soundproofing for the level of sounds that our study said, but we need to upgrade our glass. So inside, in the townhomes, and then there's some single families that fall within there, we'll do a different window rating in there.
Okay.
Just to make sure inside the house, you don't hear the highway.
Okay. Thank you.
So I assume you've done extensive market research when you're putting together this plan here. I'm curious, what is the highest priority as far as customers you wants or desires when you do market research? Is it price sensitivity? Is it 1 versus 2 story square footage? Is it location? What's kind of the main driver or the main want you're seeing from the prospective customers you've unearthed in your research?
I think price sensitivity is a big concern of buyers. But then we also have buyers that are moving up that want to spend more money, that want to live in a good neighborhood. And so this type of neighborhood allows that because we have such different price points. The townhomes generally will be probably around $400,000, which seems like a lot of money, but that's affordable right now or attainable for, you know, your first-time home buyer. The homes in yellow, those will probably be around the low 400,000s, and then you kind of get up. So the orange homes will be about 500,000, and then the green will be over 500, probably maybe even over 600.
So as far as square footage, what's kind of like the sweet spot where you see most of the demand?
Oh, square footage is, it all depends where you are in your life.
Sure.
You're starting out, you get
Yeah,
1,800
but there's gonna be
to
some kind of bell curve. I
2,100
mean,
square
what's the one standard D from your
If you had to
peak
count-
square footage?
Is somewhere between 2,100 and 2,600.
Okay,
So like the yellow homes are 1,800 to 21. Our townhomes run right around 1,600 to 1,800. But when you get to the green, we're starting to push 2,200 to
Over 3,000.
over 3,000 square feet. So that's the excitement part about this site is it's got a home for, we think, everybody, but maybe not quite everybody, but most everybody.
yeah. So one guy can ask, what, of the colors up there, which ones are you expecting to be the highest demand or your best sellers? It sounds like the 2,200 square foot, so maybe the greens?
The greens, the yellows, and the orange are probably gonna run similar. When we have, like our Shakopee site is similar laid out, they probably average the same number over the year between all 3 products. The townhomes are a little slower, to be quite honest, because if you go look at existing townhomes, you can get them under 4. So we gotta find someone that wants new townhomes, that doesn't want all the maintenance headache. Because that's just the struggle we have today. New homes cost more than existing, so.
Sure.
But I would say the yellow, orange, and green will be the ones that they'll sell and will be pretty even, and the orange will sell out first because there's less of them, but the yellow and green will just keep moving. And we got this planned over 5 years, so as you know, the world changes every day. Every day we wake up, there's something new going on, so this gives us enough variety that we can react and fulfill what everybody's looking for.
So as far as profitability, what's kind of the lot count or house unit count where this becomes no longer attractive? I mean, is this a barely breaking even type of project or not? At 500 some? No, 405, sorry.
Oh, I don't know what you know about D.R. Horton. D.R. Horton's the largest builder in the country, which is yay, we're the largest. But the one thing that tells everybody is that we're well-positioned, we're well-financed. We're publicly traded, so you can go look us up any day of the week and see where we're sitting. We make about the same profit on any one of the homes. So from that standpoint, we just want to sell a home, so it doesn't mean, so yes, we'll make money out here. How much? Tell us what the price of oil is going to do tomorrow to our building materials. And if
Sure.
you can go look at our financials for the last however many years, and our margins run roughly the same.
Yeah, I'm familiar. I mean, I lived at a DR project, or DR product in Arizona. I'm just curious if there is pushback where we want to see maybe some larger lot sizes. We get away from this PRD 65-foot, 15-foot set between a house to go more to the R1 90-foot wide lots. How does that affect
general-
your attitude towards this project?
We have
It
to
will
meet our
increase.
comp plan, though.
Yeah, but just in general, the larger the lot, the higher the price the home is.
Sure.
And the higher the price the home is, the less buyer pool there is. And I know everybody says, everybody wants, every city we go to, every planning commission, we want larger lots. Well, it's great, but there's not that many buyers out there. The custom builders do 20 lots at a time a year. That's not a business model that we follow, so we understand what you're saying, but the larger lots
We wouldn't be the builder for that.
we wouldn't be the
lot.
builder, and it would double the price of the lot.
Sure,
Just
I
beside
understand.
plan, so,
But there's gonna be a point where it's no longer attractive as a project, and we don't be pushing up against that.
when we
That'd be
start
a-
getting above 700 at D.R. Horton, it becomes a buyer not for us.
Okay,
Because they want more custom, they want more uniqueness, and that's not the model we're set up. We're trying to build quality homes as efficient as we can to keep the price in a reasonable case for our buyers.
okay, cool.
Any other questions?
I got a whole list, but we got more for Erin, but
I have a couple questions. So on the picture that Erin has up now, there's some lots that are grayed out that look like they're pushing into a bluff. Are they plotted, not plotted? Were on the concept plan, went away?
So, on a formal document, we typically would call it a ghost plat. So there are a couple areas on this property that's directly west. Most of that property between here and some highland is really bluffy, but we understand that there could be some lots in that area should that property owner choose to develop that portion of the project. So we're trying to show that those lots could be possible someday if they choose to move forward. That side of that property, so the east side of the next property, is largely undevelopable. It's really bluffy. We wouldn't be able to get there with our bluff setback. But should, at the time that person wants to sell, they recognize that there are these beautiful bluff lots on that side, there is potential for them to develop on the Enclave side of that property.
Okay. So there is a large maintenance plan. Is this association maintained HOA development?
Not entirely. There will be an HOA, but there'll be monuments, and so we'll have some features that an HOA will maintain. For the townhomes, obviously, we need an HOA because there will be grounds maintenance and exterior building maintenance. For the single-family homes, you pretty much do your own lawn and you do your own building exterior. The purpose for it would be to help maintain I think the boulevard along Monroe, and then there'll be a monument kind of at the east entrance of the site.
Okay. And is this a phased development, or is it all at once?
No,
Like,
it'll be phased. And I
Okay.
think we're thinking 4 phases about.
4 to 5, again, depending on what the world does. But
So the phasing will become apparent at final plat. So the preliminary plat typically plats the entire property, and then they come in at phases via final plat. So you'll see a final plat application for the enclave potentially 4 to 5 times coming back to you.
sounds good. Jim?
Do you expect to get the notch down the road?
What's the
The
notch?
notch up at the top.
Oh, the Villers
sunrise?
property?
we
Oh, that.
have not heard anything from that family or property owner yet. We're actually gonna go try knocking on their door, but we're not so much looking to buy it at this point. We just wanna make sure that they know what we're gonna do and make sure we haven't missed anything that they know from living out there, so. But we have no anticipation today to buy it, but 2 years, we may be in front of you saying, hey, guess what?
Okay. And I'm assuming there's no private streets?
Just in the townhomes, as far as unless Erin's throwing a different thing at us.
Okay, so there are private streets in the town.
Now, but built to city standard, maybe it's just lack of width and lack of setback, but structurally they're the same.
And that's typical, like the townhomes in Timber Creek are on private streets. The townhomes at like Sumac, Oak Tree, those are private as well. So not inconsistent with how we do multifamily units right now.
And obviously, the fire department has reviewed.
Correct.
Any other questions, Jim?
No.
Sherry?
He took my question. No, actually, a lot of my questions were answered, but I do want to hit on the park. So I was probably the most vocal at the last meeting about how that park was situated and lack of drivability, no parking, none of that, right? And so I significantly appreciate the fact that we have addressed that. And I realized too that it took a couple of lots away from your initial plan. But I also appreciate the fact that it's kind of an open slate, like you said, Erin. So we're able to create a park plan that will fit not only the neighborhood, but the larger city as well. So I just wanted to say thank you for addressing that, because initially where it was and where it is now is a very marked improvement.
What is that finger in the wetland?
Yeah. So it's a platted rail property. The regional trail wants to hit there, but we can't, obviously, because it's moving through water. So we worked really hard with DR to make sure that the trail system, knowing that a portion of this property might not develop for a while, we worked really hard to make sure that the trail system meanders up to Monroe too, so folks can continue west should development happen on the north side quicker than the south side. So it's just a strange finger in that pond, but it doesn't mean anything right now. Someday might we get a trail system in there? Maybe, but right now we have it to the westerly property line, both on the north and south side of the project.
So I have one other question on the park, and basically where we've got that brown trail going on the south side there, it's all wooded through there, right? Kind of like what it is outside that zone. It's heavily wooded.
Yes.
Right, so.
Mulch?
Yes, it'll be similar to like the trail on Hawthorne Ridge and Timber Creek, so we like to say rustic at some points.
Any questions for DR Horton?
Yeah, I got one more. Pulling the thread more on the park stuff, but same vein, has there been any consideration of trying to work in some maybe empty lots as green spaces for kids that can walk from their houses to some place where they can play, instead of having to, essentially if you're living in like the orange houses or the townhouses, you have to get in a car and drive down to the park, like I did with my son today, because he wanted to go shoot baskets. I had to drive him down to a park because there's nothing within walking distance in the existing subdivision. I know obviously you're going to lose lots and lose profitability, but was that even brought into any kind of thought process of, hey, can we work in a few spots where kids just get together and throw a football around or play catch or any kind of stuff when we're laying this out?
We worked with staff on the location of the park, and we figured that a bigger park for a wider area of people was probably the best. I don't think the city has any interest in having a pocket park,
Correct.
if you will.
And
Some, go ahead, no.
and if I can add, as Erin said, we have 6 miles of sidewalk and trail. And we have looked at different ways to make connection. As you can see, there's a trail connection just south of the orange on the greenhouse, on the green lots where you can walk through the back to get to where the star is and continue on. We've also had conversations with staff about doing some type of crossing at Monroe to help the pedestrians. Where it's going to be, we all have our own thoughts, and as we have learned through Hawthorne, the more times we walk the site and talk about things, we seem to come to a better spot. So I have my thoughts where it should be going. Deb and Erin have their thoughts, so somehow one of us will come up with the right answer and we'll agree. But we have looked at it. It's just between the city's desire for maintenance and trying to get a bigger mass at the bottom, it just didn't fit our plan.
Okay. Well, what I don't like, there's not much we can really probably do about this, but, you know, a day like today, neighborhood, Spring Creek, the kids are playing in the street because there's no place for them to play. The lots are fairly small. You can't throw a football on them, can't play catch, so they're playing literally in the street, which obviously is not ideal when you got traffic passing through. So I'm just trying to see if there's any way we could mitigate that risk a little bit with some pockets, you know, pocket parks, but it doesn't sound like that's really anybody's cross-check at this point, or has anybody's got a stomach for it?
Yeah, that, in our 2018 plan, our Parks Master Plan, we moved to community scale parks. The city, like to have an open lot, the city would have to maintain that, and we don't have the crew to do that at this point. So to have each development have 3 pocket parks and then a community park as well, that's not sustainable for our staff. I also think that, like, if you look at the project, a majority of it is green space, so those will all be mostly held in city outlot. I don't think this project is going to feel overly dense. We need to hit some densities for the Met Council. And I also would push back that to get from the townhomes down to that park via a trail does not require driving, unless you are moving with a tiny, tiny baby or something. But the fact that the trail takes you pretty quickly through this entire system, it's not a far walk or bike or scooter down to that park.
Fourth grade walk half a mile down that park by themselves.
Anyone else? There's a number of people here. Anyone else that have comments? You want to come up and state your name? You guys might have to come back if you have to answer a question.
We're gonna sit right here.
Okay. So any questions about the Enclave at Carver Creek? Or the park?
Well, I'm Vicki Peterson, and we're the property right next to the townhouses. And what are you gonna do to keep those people off our property and the pets and the, we don't want that liability.
So typically what we've done is we've added some signage for private property, no
That
trespassing.
doesn't work.
Um,
Dogs can't read.
I would say your next route is to call the sheriff's department, the non-emergency number. I don't think there's an effective way that, I don't think building a fence would be appropriate.
Why
Well,
not?
Because at some point Carver will extend beyond this property, and I think building a fence there gives the representation that that's maybe the edge of our growth area, and that's not true.
In my lifetime it is. Stopped at my property.
Yeah, I hear you.
And
I
I've
just,
been there for 50 years. I don't want kids and dogs on my property. I have my own kids.
yeah, I don't
And
think
have
we're,
gardens. We don't want to be responsible. We run heavy equipment. We have a garden. We don't have a dog right now, but if we did, you know what I'm saying?
I do.
There's a lot of liability when you've got that many people on your property line.
I think it's about being a responsible neighbor though, too. I mean,
Huh?
like, it's about being a responsible neighbor.
I know, but when you're talking that
Sherry-
many people,
Correct. I mean, I don't go walk through my neighbor's yard. I think it's a conversation that you have. I mean, Sherry and I live a couple houses down, and, I mean, I don't take
okay,
a
we
shortcut
have,
through.
we had Holla on the other side, cutting through our property all the time. And we had many, many confrontations, nothing got resolved. So we're gonna be in the same boat. 90% of them people be respectful, but there's a 10% that won't be.
Do you have any suggestions?
Well, I'm thinking a fence is the best route, something to stop it.
So you could build a fence on your property, you'd go through the county for permitting.
Well, I know, but that's my expense again because somebody else wants to make a lot of money.
Yeah, I'm not the decision maker, the planning commission can talk about it, recommend it to the city council, but from a staff perspective, I don't think that's appropriate.
Because,
Like I mentioned before, I think it gives the perception that our city limit stops there. I think a community with a fence built around it is probably not something that neighbors
well,
want to
you,
see.
you build a berm for noise for them. We didn't get one when the highway went through. We're as close as those townhouses.
Just, if I could interject.
Yeah.
One, we'd be happy to chat with you about options that we have between landscape and our fence. And it's 3 to 4 years out, so we have time to talk through it. As Erin says, it's not required, but we're willing to come and meet with you or whoever you like and see what can come up, because we're in the preliminary stages, so we may not have all the answers tonight, but.
No, I understand
Would
that,
be-
but I want to know, I just want you to know I'm concerned.
Yep, and this is the first we hear about, it, so we're happy that you came tonight and voiced it, but we'll get you a card from one of us, and we can set up a time here to talk maybe before the city council meeting, and maybe we can have a better answer for the council.
Sounds fine. Sounds good, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
The street on the very top, I think it's Monroe Drive up by the pink townhouses, at the end of that, I know River Valley just brought, if I'm in my right part of the map, that's where River Valley just bought the outpost, is where that ends, right?
Correct. Yes.
Is there, I'm mainly curious, is that, do you have any ideas that will sit for so long to where it doesn't really matter? Because where that drops out on their property is not where a road would go through, but I could certainly see them loving more people to have access to their
So we
building.
met with a property owner directly west, and we modeled Monroe to a spot that everyone felt comfortable with. So Monroe travels that way and then dips a little bit further west to avoid some of their buildings. So we've had that conversation with the property owner to the west.
Still Jim Walker, still 2044 Tamarack. Is it okay if you feel free to interject? Because I'm gonna have some questions.
Have that.
Acres of the large park.
We have 150 or 115 total acres, and I can't remember, do you know how much the actual park flatland is? Yeah.
Then my comment is, moving forward, we should know the acreage of the large park.
It's 116 acres on the south end.
What's the acreage of the play space? Not the playground, but the publicly accessible place where kids could run around and have fun. It's okay not to know now, it's okay, yeah.
Because some of it is, we haven't programmed it, so we don't know how we're gonna grade it yet. So some of this is, we have thoughts, but we need feedback on just the park itself, so.
And another piece of it too is that that whole south area will likely be held in city outlot, but that doesn't mean that it's all city park. Correct. Yep.
And the park, I'm so sorry about this.
No, that's okay.
The park we're talking about is gonna be.
Right here.
Here.
Right there.
Mhm.
All right, now I'm a little confused. Where's Monroe?
Up at the top.
Up here.
Ah, too bad. Okay. For me, not for you. You're great. Okay, thank you. Improvements anticipated to existing Monroe for traffic.
None.
Improvements for crossing Monroe, the existing part or the new part.
For vehicles or
Pedestrians.
pedestrians?
Thanks for asking.
Pedestrians?
Your bikes.
So,
Stroller.
as Mr. Sewell alluded to, we are looking at an enhanced pedestrian crossing within the proposed development. So there'd be pedestrian indication signage that would have a light on it. So we are looking at an option to have a more centralized crossing location that's safe for people to use within the development.
Thank you. So my understanding then is you're going to have a better, that's a mean thing to say, but a better pedestrian crossing further back and no improvements to the place where the traffic from the new neighborhood and the existing neighborhood will be. Is that accurate?
Correct.
My comment would be, I don't think that's a good plan. I think maybe enhancing at least one of the pedestrian crossings on Monroe that will handle the traffic from the new development and the existing development should probably be a consideration. Maybe not with this project, but moving forward.
That would be, if you're ever interested in coming to a city council meeting, that
Oh,
would be
I
a great
probably will be.
community
Yeah,
comment.
This is very exciting.
We can't require D.R. Horton to do anything off their site, so it wouldn't be with this project, but if you want to bring that up as something to consider.
Sorry, just a few more. By the townhomes play space?
Current? Currently, we do not show one. We may, as we go through, we may add some. Our struggle is, and we have to talk with Erin about our density, because every time we pull out townhomes, we start dropping density, and then we worry what the Met Council's gonna say. So this is kind of the frustrating part for development is, we think we're doing good, but then there's another level of government that comes and tells us we have to modify. So we've chatted about it internally that maybe we need a small playground up there, but it's a yin and yang. If we take it out,
No, that makes sense.
then Erin here gets mad at me because we don't have the right density, so we're,
I don't get mad at you, I can't approve it.
maybe that's what she says. So we're trying to figure it out as we go, and as we did in Hawthorne, and staff hopefully will agree with me that we continue to work to try to make it better. We may get an approval on the preliminary plat hopefully tonight, but that doesn't mean we're done trying to improve our designs. We continue to work with staff, with neighbors and such to get it better.
So this is the preliminary, so we see everything, and then each individual section as it comes in, we do a final plat.
Correct.
On.
Thank you. My comment would be, as development gets denser, the need for play space is greater. When you have more kids in the summer, which is coming, yay, with little or nothing to do, that's when perhaps trespassing is an issue, or vandalism is an issue, or just regular kid stuff that isn't great becomes an issue. So I would say, as we look at developments with greater density, including a playing area makes sense, but that's okay. As I understand it, the way you're meeting the Met Council's density rules is you're using 2 existing apartment buildings to make the numbers work out.
That's just for the density that we have to designate as high density across the entire city.
Got it.
So we're not borrowing density, it's not a borrowing situation.
I would say that a bias too far in favor of larger lots, larger houses, expensive houses, and I appreciated that was an interesting conversation, will eventually be a problem for the city, particularly if more retail comes in. So my comment would be, let's include all types of density to the extent we can in projects moving forward. Perhaps not all in the same development, but to me, it seems like we're adding a lot of low and medium in this case. And I think it's shifted toward the low, and I don't think that's great. I'd like to see a piece of high density in this project. I'm not saying it should change. And there's not gonna be one, and that's okay. But my comment is maybe there should be. And finally, if the current staff can't handle pocket parks, maybe it's time to revisit that, because I think, my last name is Walker. For me to walk a half mile is no big deal. And I rode my bike here, and I rode my bike to work. No big deal. But we're not in the world I grew up in. I walked half a mile to school every day in a suburb and half a mile back, and then I did it for lunch again. We don't live in that time anymore. So a park that is a half mile away is not a park that can be utilized by a fourth grader during the summer. And so a pocket park, a neighborhood park, a park every couple blocks, I would say that's probably a direction you should think about. And if our staffing can't handle it, that makes sense. The solution to me is not having parks, but rather to look at staffing and make that happen.
Can I
I
just,
think I hit all my high points there.
can I just piggyback on that pocket park idea?
Oh, I didn't know you could ask back.
Well, so the D.R. Horton subdivision I lived in Tucson, they had pocket parks, but they're maintained by the HOA. So it wasn't a city burden, it was HOA. All I had to do was pay for the cost of irrigation and mowing.
Did that ever get tricky with out-of-neighborhood kids using our park kind of thing?
It was a community park. They had we had about 400 houses, and we had 7 or 8 pocket parks. And you could literally, you're about 2 blocks from any park in that neighborhood. So you're comfortable letting your kid just walk down the street and like, right?
That would be nice.
Yeah.
I guess if I had to have one or the other, though, I'd start with the play space and the high density stuff. That would be my bias. I'm done commenting. Yay.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I had a comment, Krista.
Sure.
Erin, when we're calculating the density, remind me the outlots, right? That still counts towards the total, right?
No,
But
so
does
things
not.
are netted out like streets, wetlands, ponds,
Bluffs.
bluffs.
Okay. And then, so how are we fairly comfortable in our current density based on the exclusions for the park? What was the total? Is that on the front page again?
Yes,
Okay,
the townhomes are teetering. I think we're a hair over 5.
for the medium. Okay.
Yep, so to remove some of those, to rework it, we'll maybe need to get a little bit creative to hit that medium density.
But there is some other flexibility. And again, this is all preliminary, right? So that gives us enough wiggle room as we go to final. If things need to shift around, you don't see any issues.
So the Hammers site specifically needs to hit that medium density, so we wouldn't be able to move a townhome like from that area.
Across. Oh, I see.
Correct.
Okay, and that's due to the comprehensive plan. There's a specific.
You got it.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we're ready to make a motion. We need to recommend the approval of the preliminary plat and rezoning for the Enclave at Carver Creek to the city council.
Do you want to close the public hearing?
We didn't have a public hearing for this. Were we supposed to?
We just did it.
Okay. It's not in my minutes here. I would like to close the public hearing.
Motion to close the hearing.
I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. I guess now we can do a motion, right?
Mhm.
Okay.
I will make a motion to recommend approval of the preliminary plat and rezoning for the Enclave at Carver Creek to the city council.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor? Those opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you all for joining us. We do have another agenda item. If you're not interested, you can leave. You can stay if you want, but if this was all you came for.
Thank you.
Really good mouse access.
They cleared out. Everybody's gone.
It's right here, the lens. Yeah, it's great. It's really too bad that Alliance or the city or somebody didn't buy it and turn it into a public facility.
Bummer.
There's no flower.
Hey, chairperson.
So, next item is Aion?
Yeah,
That's what Jennifer and I were just talking about. We're gonna go Aion.
Okay.
Excuse me, but we're gonna continue the meeting. Kayla,
Kayla, you're welcome to step out for a second, but we're gonna keep moving if that's okay. Okay. Okay, thank you. We have a final plat application for the Aion Business Center. So this is going to be a little bit of a catch-up for all of you for work that we've been doing on the city level for the past couple of months. So there's been some big changes. Most recently, when you saw this project, it was presented by United Properties. United Properties has sold the site to Messenbrink Construction. They're a company out of Prior Lake, and they do industrial development across the South Metro. Most recently, they did a project in Chanhassen. United Properties was planning to build the space and then lease to end users. So they were saying that they were going to build it and then start marketing to get maybe one, maybe several end users for the site to fill the space. Messenbrink has leased the entire first building to the end user. So when they purchased the site from United Properties, that entire first building has been leased to an end user. So a different story than what was happening with United Properties. And the second building is contemplated as a phase 2.
I'm assuming that's one end user?
Correct, yes. So right now, we will final plat the entire site, so it creates 2 lots. It will be a phased development, so the first building will start construction. The second building will come at a later date, once the first building is likely constructed. We don't have a date for that yet, but I know the Messenbrink team is excited about the site, and they have some ideas for who might fill the space and that building. The zoning is consistent, which is great. So the Planning Commission and City Council recently saw a rezoning request to an industrial zoning district, and the uses are consistent with the environmental assessment worksheet. So if you remember at the Planning Commission meeting preliminary plat, there was a lot of discussion about the EAW. So it was soil cleanup, drainage from a property owner adjacent. That was part of the time that it has taken between preliminary plat and final plat, is that we worked pretty hard with that property owner to come to some conclusions about the site, which was great. And then there are just some minor changes in the plat that I'll speak to in upcoming slides. So you originally saw the concept plan August 2024. There's been several applications since then. Annexation, the EAW, you reviewed the TIF application. The Planning Commission most recently reviewed this in August of 2025. So between there and then when the City Council looked at it, it was December. So we had spent a lot of time between those 2 dates working with the property owner on site drainage, working with United Properties on some site details, giving them some time to figure out who they were going to lease the space to. So that explains the gap between the Planning Commission review to the City Council review to our review now, is that we were working pretty hard on a change of the user, but also some changes to the site as well. So taking a step back, this property is at the corner of Jonathan Carver Parkway, County Road 11, and Levi Griffin Road. It's here. You can see on the city's comprehensive plan, it's guided purple, which allows for our industrial zoning district. So it'll be directly east of Lakeview Industries, kitty corner from Fleet Farm, up near the intersection of 212 and County Road 11. This was the previous version that United Properties was showing, so this was their site plan. I'll move through a couple of the changes. So if you'll recall, they were proposing 2 189,000 square foot buildings, kind of tandem to each other, a copy paste of one building to the other. This was the previous plat. So this was the plat that was approved, the preliminary plat that was approved for the United Property site. And then the final plat for Aion is on the screen now. So you can see there are some very minor changes. The lot line is pretty consistent, that it jogs through the site and then splits it essentially down the center. But a couple of changes that I think are important that this group will be interested in. First, the slip right from Levi Griffin into the site has been removed. So United Properties was looking for that turning motion to get into the site. That has been removed, so it'll be a continuous curb along Levi Griffin to get to Commerce. And then the building sizes in total stay the same, but the first building gets significantly larger. So it goes from 2 189,000 square foot buildings to one building 257, thanks. You're looking at it closer. So the square footage stays the same. It just changes a little bit between the buildings. Some questions that we had when United Properties was looking at it too was we felt like it was overparked, so there's also been a reduction in the parking spaces. So still appropriate for the building and the space. So those are two things that have changed, but some things have stayed the same. So we are continuing to see that trail on the north-south side of Jonathan Carver Parkway along this site. We worked pretty hard to pull it out of that ditch condition, knowing that the county is not going to improve the segment of roadway for a while, but knowing that the trail was important. So it's going to be adjacent to the property. So the trail will be there. It just won't look as typical because we usually would use that ditch system, but that's not an option right now because it is a functioning ditch for water that is coming off Jonathan Carver Parkway. And then there's some changes for the landscaping, tree removal, and replacement as well. A big thing to note that will change probably the way that you interact with this area is that this project triggers the need for a signal. So this will be a full stoplight at Commerce and Levi Griffin Road. So Bolton and Menk is doing the plans for that signal right now. We are hoping to get that in as soon as possible, just so folks don't get used to going to the site and then it's a bummer 2 months later when there's a stoplight that they have to contend with. So hoping to line that up with the time of construction for the building as well, so folks coming into the site for business or their job will have a consistent traffic pattern. So at the preliminary plat public hearing, we heard a lot about soil contamination. And the takeaway from that conversation was that the soils were contaminated. That was true. We knew that to be true from the EAW. But the end story from the EAW was that the site was cleaned up. So yes, it was unfortunate that the soils were contaminated. Yes, it was unfortunate that the people probably didn't know and they didn't mitigate it. But through that EAW process, working with Braun, the site is now clean. So it is an improved condition from what it was prior to development. Through the EAW process, it was identified to be a contaminated site. But again, margins have been coming back from Braun clean for the site. So it is developable with clean soils right now. And then the other big one was drainage and runoff to the adjacent property owner who's south. So we've been working really closely. His name is Mr. Lano, Mark Lano. Erin, I'm going to hand it over to you now for a quick update.
Sure. Thanks, Erin. So yeah, we met with Mr. Lano yesterday, and his primary concerns are related to increased volume that's heading down. He has a swale that goes through his property, which ultimately discharges into drainage facilities along the 212 right-of-way. So in order to alleviate his concerns, we're going to be looking to work with him on doing some drain tile work in the bottom of the swale, just so that that swale bottom will stay dry and it won't be wet, so he can still continue to farm that. So we have a good solution, I think, there. He's amenable to that, so we're hoping to work with him on getting that drain tile work installed here maybe this fall. I don't think we'll get it done before planting season, but after the crops are out this fall, we'll probably have a tiler go out and put some tile in the bottom of the ditch there.
I would add one thought to that. You made it sound like we met with him yesterday, like that was the only thing we did.
Sure.
We chased so many solutions on the site. Erin worked really hard to get in touch with MnDOT to make sure that their ditch system at the south side of the property was functioning correctly when it was installed. It's been several months of meeting with Mark Lano and the Watershed District to come up with a solution we all were happy with. So it wasn't a meeting that happened yesterday and it was a quick, easy fix. There was a ton of staff time that went through trying to figure out something that would work for all of us and a potential future developer for the site. We didn't want to do something really drastic that would make the site great, but then wouldn't be developable where someone would want to hang on to it for farming, or if a portion of the site would continue to be too wet. So it was a journey. We got there. We learned a lot. And I think we all are in agreement, the private property owner, the Watershed District, and the city, that it's a solution that will work. So that was the big work that we did after the preliminary plat was the soil contamination and then the drainage and runoff. Trees have been really troubling on this site since United Properties was working it. The Aion team did change the layout a little bit with the ponding on the north side. And then we've had a lot of discussions with them about what landscape success looks like for a private property owner. We went back and forth a couple of times where we don't want someone to install a ton of landscaping that they're only doing to meet the city code requirement, and then they rip out 2 years later because it's frustrating for them, or they don't want to pay for the maintenance for that type of landscaping. So the site does have a lot of old trees that are on the site. You can see the removal is pretty significant for the buildings, the street, and the ponding. So the landscape plan is kind of meet in the middle for the team and the city, where we came to some conclusions where it's an industrial site. It's not a site that's probably going to be heavily landscaped with shrubs that looks like the Arboretum on any given day. So we came to conclusions about the landscape plan that works for the site. I think it will offer a great product, plantings along the foundation of the building and the perimeter of the site. But then we were able to come to some conclusions that will require the Aion team to give the city cash in lieu of tree plantings on the site specifically. So the city code does allow for us to do that if the funds are used for tree-specific projects moving forward. So the short amount of trees that we are on the site, we came to a calculation together. The city will be receiving $36,640 that will be used on future landscaping projects throughout the city. The timing of that is really helpful for us. We're seeing a lot of emerald ash borer in our city parks, like Community Park has been hit pretty hard. So that money will be used to likely remove some of those trees and replant them. So we were able to take kind of a hardship on the site where the trees just weren't working out, and we're able to use those in a different location in the city, which is likely a win-win for everyone involved in the site and maintenance.
So Erin, can I ask a question?
Mm-hmm.
So the green is where they will plant stuff?
Correct.
Yeah, okay,
So the red is the removal, green is the landscaped.
okay. And then in addition, they're gonna give us dollars?
Correct.
Okay.
The photometric plan is another thing that we think about, so making sure that there's not light pollution off the site, so you can see it's really small. But once you get to the property line, it does, lights that are on the site diminish, so there will not be light pollution spilling off the site. And then some renderings of the building. If you look at it and you think, wow, that kind of looks like Lakeview Industries, it really does. Like the blue is pretty consistent, the gray and the white building, so they'll look really complementary, really next to each other, even though they were done by completely different developers, different businesses. And then talking a little bit about who the end user is. So it's the Bernard Group. They're headquartered in Chanhassen, and they make point of purchase displays, interactive displays, floor stands. So if you walk into a Target and there's a display right when you walk in, it's likely product from the Bernard Group. So on the site, it will be warehousing, inventory storage, packaging, shipping, and receiving. The Carver site is anticipated to have 50 employees with logistic personnel, warehouse associates, operations management. Again, that's consistent with the industrial district of our city code. And they'll operate on a 2-shift schedule, 6 days per week. So again, tonight you're looking at the final plat. So this will be the last approval for the site for construction, changing from United Properties to the Aion Business Park, and then the end user as the Bernard Group. So lots of people involved. It took us a while, but we're here tonight for your review of the final plat. Jennifer is here with the development team if you have questions specific to Aion or the Bernard Group, if you have questions for her.
So they won't be coming back for the second building?
No, so if they
Being handled now?
If they meet the requirements of the city code, it would be a permitted user via the building permit process. We would give you updates. We would probably do a site plan review, but it wouldn't be a formal platting process.
Anything about the plans for north?
The school district and the Wickenhausers, we're starting work on Commerce Drive. So we don't have any plans in from the school district for the transportation facility. So date to be determined, but we're working on Commerce Drive at this point, the extension.
Which is why that light is needed there?
This project, the project north, stuff west, it's a
So
series.
it's planning for the future?
Correct.
Okay.
I don't think that light's a bad idea though, because these are 18-wheelers that are gonna be going in and out of here,
And buses?
and buses, yeah,
And all the cars going to
yeah, Fleet Farm,
Fleet Farm are gonna really be upset about stopping at the light.
yeah, just, yeah.
Any other questions, concerns, Jim?
No.
Sherry?
No, I don't have any questions.
questions?
Yeah, questions, concerns?
I'm sorry, ma'am, I missed your name. Jennifer. Can you tell us about the tenant for the facility? I assume they're on a lease of some kind, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Madam Chair, members of the commission. So the Bernard Group is the primary tenant. Their headquarters, as she identified, is in Chanhassen. Actually, the Messenbrink team just finished construction of their headquarters. It's a brand new facility. And so the intent, obviously, is that they take the whole building. They will be on a lease. Messenbrink will retain ownership of the building. And they also intend to own the northerly building as well when that gets constructed.
Can you tell us how long that lease is gonna last?
Do you know, this particular lease, I'm not 100% sure. I know actually what the Chanhassen lease is, but, which is a very long-term lease. And I would expect that this one is similar.
Where are
Okay.
they in, where are they in Chanhassen? Off of 5? Is that the new one on 5?
Yes.
That went up by Prince's there?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, so when you say long-term, 5, 10, 15 years?
I
Well, mean,
believe it's
ballpark-ish.
actually, it's beyond 10. The one in Chanhassen is beyond 10, and I believe this one is as well.
Okay,
When they constructed the building in Chanhassen, they were so pleased with the product and where they're at that they actually asked Messenbrink to find another site that was within a certain radius of that particular location, and we were able to identify this site and make it happen. So,
Mhm.
Great.
so Erin, or Erin Schmidt, I guess, kind of a CE question for you. Just kind of thinking future as we build this out and maybe new tenants come in, they got a little higher water and power consumption requirements, maybe in the next facilities. How much capacity do we have in excess up there as far as, let's just say, water with the existing lines before we need to start putting in larger trunks or that kind of stuff?
Yeah, so we have a really redundant trunk system in that area, just because it's so close to the water tower that we have several, 12-inch trunk water mains that are looped. We actually have a loop that goes through the Lakeview Industries site on the north side of their building directly to the water tower. And then we also have water main along Levi Griffin Road as well.
Okay.
So we have a really robust water system in this area.
So you're not seeing any increased water issue or water usage being an issue in the near future?
No, so
Okay.
we did the water plant expansion in the early 2020s. And then the city also does have, obviously, future water expansion programmed in their capital improvement
Mhm.
plan. So between the existing capacity and planned future improvements, I don't see any,
Okay, great.
any issues from a utility standpoint.
Awesome, thanks.
Yep.
So Erin Smith, a question for you. I missed probably the conversation on this, because it probably happened months ago, but help me understand why we have planned for trail on the west side of JCP, and then Chaska's got a trail on the east side. Are we just trying to outdo Chaska, or is there a decommission plan in the future for Chaska's trail, or some
No.
other options going on?
We just, with the amount of traffic that JCP will see at full build-out, we're trying to limit people crossing it whenever we can.
Okay,
It's like the underpass that we put in at the school, the roundabout. We're trying to control pedestrian traffic as much as we can across JCP. So in the future, as construction continues up JCP, I'm anticipating that some of those intersections might change, and there could be more opportunity for underpasses in the future for folks to navigate it safely. But
Okay.
that's our goal, is to keep people from crossing JCP when we can,
okay.
From going to the other side.
the Chaska side.
Well, so you got to cross somewhere. I mean, you can
Yeah.
cross over to the east side if you needed to.
We're also, we're anticipating development across that entire north area, so not knowing who the next users might be.
Okay.
It might be, it's a commercial industrial mix, so if we got some type of convenience store in that area that a kid would want to get to with their family on a bike, we won't want them to have to go across the 212 bridge to the Chaska side back to the Carver side. So maintaining that consistent trail is planning for that future growth area too.
Okay.
I have a couple questions. So this is zoned commercial industrial,
It's guided commercial industrial, it's zoned industrial.
because we don't have commercial industrial.
Correct.
Okay. So right now there's removal of trees, removal of whatever they're doing. Is that normal to happen before final plat?
Yes.
Okay.
So a lot of developers get an early grading agreement after preliminary plat. So once a project gets preliminary plat, that's when the end user has vested land rights. That's typically when they start moving dirt on a site. So it happens in residential projects too. So the tree clearing and the grading that was done is not inconsistent with what we see.
Okay. They are very good with cleanup. I have gone by a number of times, and they're little sweepers out there. I'm Jonathan Carver. And then the Bernard Group has the entire first building.
Correct.
Okay. And there's no timelines for building two?
There are not, however, I've had multiple conversations with them that there are several tenants, potential tenants that are very interested, so I do not anticipate that it will be very long before
Okay.
that occurs. I know there's a few in the hopper,
Perfect.
And I'll also say construction of building one is going to go really quickly.
extremely quickly, because the Bernard Group has a very tight timeline in which they have to deliver the building.
Like, how long does it take to build a building?
Well, unbelievably enough, Messenbrink can do it extremely fast.
Okay.
And so I know that they are trying to hit a very specific timeline. And so that is part of why they were doing so much site work early.
Perfect. And we won't have to do another final plat again, because we're doing both at the same time.
Correct. So unless
Okay.
there's a significant change for drainage and utilities, manner and access point, no, we will not review an additional plat.
Perfect.
I have a question about the east side of JCP. Chaska at one time was talking about having a green space there. Are they still planning on that?
We've seen a couple reviews at a staff level for some development that they're seeing along the corridor. I would say it's consistent with some industrial projects.
What's it zoned?
Industrial. Our comp plans are really consistent with Chaska and Victoria in that area, so creating kind of a hub for the three cities together.
Any questions?
I have two questions. The first one, I don't know if it's pertinent to this, but what was the contamination on the site? And has it migrated to other sites around there?
You can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it was like an oil heating system that had leached into
Okay.
the soil.
Okay. Then the second one was with the trees, if I understand it, they're cutting down a number of trees. We can't replace all those trees, so they're giving us an equivalent, and we're gonna use that to potentially replace trees here that have died from emerald ash borer, which makes sense. But net will probably be down trees. And is that okay?
Yeah, it's always tough because in any landscape plan, you're losing a mature tree for a new tree. So at the end of the day, I would say, yes, we are, like the calculation I don't think is ever even because it takes decades to get a mature tree to have a mature tree canopy. So yes, I would say we're not hitting what it was, but we just at a staff level, we've been trying to figure out trees for a little bit. It's not something that we think about that often until several of them are sick. So unfortunately, there's a huge stretch in Community Park that are all ash trees. So we've changed the way that we do landscape plans, so we don't allow the same tree types to be planted near each other. We try to get a variation. So tree for tree, we're at a loss, but having the fund available is going to help us in the long term to take care of some of our existing ones.
Okay, that makes sense, thank you.
Reed, Lincoln?
Yeah, I had a good DM on Lincoln. Yeah, I just had a question about, for commercial development or industrial development, right? What's the rule of thumb for building size to acreage, right? So, having two equally sized buildings on two equal sized lots made sense, right? But now we basically have two equal sized lot and one building a lot bigger. So how close are we to the, city guidelines or county guidelines in terms of, impermeable surfaces and just general, square, I don't know, developed square footage per land foot, acre, I don't know, whatever the measurement is.
So the site, it does meet our city code. I think it's like 80% impervious
Okay.
for an industrial site. I will say the building change is specific for the Bernard Group. They were looking for a particular
Yeah.
square footage, so that's why the shift happened. I'd say UP was marketing it as blank slate as they could. So if someone came into building one or building two, they'd get the same space. So that was the flip between the two is specific for the Bernard Group.
But there's no concern of increasing the building on the same footprint
No.
or lot size? Okay, that was it.
Okay, we need a motion to recommend the approval of the final plat for Aion Business Center to the city council.
So moved.
I will second.
I'll second. Oh,
And any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Communication, any updates from anyone? Shout them out. Erin? You have some, I'm sure.
The ice cream shop is open tonight.
Till
First
8
night of the
o'clock.
year. Oh, sorry. It doesn't close at 8.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Well, we can run.
Yeah, that's true. The other big one is that we are shooting for like a Memorial Day weekend opening of Creekside Park, so the dog parks. We're doing a ribbon cutting on June 3rd, so we'll start pushing communications for that. We're gonna have folks back that worked on the creek, so if you're curious about the creek habitat that we restored, they'll be there.
Like the Twins Fair?
That was part of it, yeah. But before that, we did some extensive work with Great River Greening to restore creek habitat. We got a pretty big grant with them. And then we're gonna ask the vet, Dr. Carissa Haverly from Healing Hands to be there, so if folks wanna bring their pups and meet the town vet. I think those are the big ones. We're working on the Summerfield preliminary plat, so that's the big development south of town, working on their AUAR, so their big environmental review. So we're poised to have some meetings with some big projects coming up this summer. But I think that's about it for me. Do you have anything?
No.
Okay.
Wait, do we get any update on the bridge? I can't think of the name right now. Merriam Junction Trail, sorry.
So the work on the city of Carver side is gonna be substantially completed by July this summer is their plan. But the entire bridge and trail system going into Scott County, that won't be done until summer of 2027. So until that time, the bridge that goes over the Minnesota River will continue to be closed. So they'll open it all at once.
Do not use the trail.
Do not use the trail.
But
Any reason for the delay?
It was planned that way.
Yep.
if Carver on the Minnesota wanted to do their annual canoe trip, will we be able to do it in 2026?
Father's Day weekend, is that when it is?
Well, we're talking now probably September or so.
Oh.
I would think so. We'd have to keep in touch with the project team, but it sounded like the Bridge 10 here is gonna be getting wrapped up here midsummer.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
So just a couple things that I know our commission worked on was the 2 apartment buildings that are now open. Taco Bell that started, and Les Schwab should be opening soon, right? Okay. Oh, and Courtney has a cheese walk next week, doesn't she?
Yeah, I think it's Earth Day, which is Wednesday.
Yeah.
A cheese walk. A walk to the cheese cave. That makes it sound like kind of fancy, like a wine and cheese walk.
I'll let her know that's what
It's
I'm
much
expecting.
different than that.
Anything else? We need a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Meeting's adjourned. Thank you, everyone. Okay, who can get that?